everyone. I was asked to talk about my favorite fruits and vegetables that I grow and why I grow them. Ask and you shall receive. So I'm going to turn this into a two-part series to keep it from getting too long. And today we're going to go over my favorite fruits to grow. There are two types of fruits, perennial and annual. Perennial being the type that comes back every single year without you having to replant or do anything to make them come back the next year. And then the annuals, which are seasonal. You grow them for spring, summer, fall, and then that's it. They're done for the year. You have to restart them the next year. Now for me, fruits can be a tricky subject. Fruit plants in general take up a lot of space, and I don't have a lot of space. I grow on 1/6 of an acre. That's 0.16 acres. Take away the footprint that my house takes up and the amount of shade I have in my yard, I am left with a very small area that gets enough sun to really grow anything. So when I'm planting fruit, anything, especially perennials, I am very conscious about their potential full-grown size and where I plant them, because they can take over an area really fast and prevent me from planting anything else. So I guess we can start with my favorite melon, my favorite annual. I'd like to say that it was watermelon. I do love me some watermelon, but I just can't grow watermelon to save my life. So I'm not gonna say it's my favorite until I'm actually successful with it. But behind me is the Anast Mar Amar melon. Like most melons, it's vining. It does climb, so I give it something to climb. Takes up much less of a footprint. You can see how much space I have at the bottom there to plant just about anything else. And the fruit is small enough where it can hang without any needed support. I do put mesh baggies around them simply because when they do ripen, it happens in the blink of an eye, and they slip right off the vine. They fall right off the vine when they're ripe. So I don't want it to come crashing down and hitting the ground and splitting open. So I just put a mesh baggie tied to my frame. So when it falls, it just falls into the baggie. This one's probably a little bit closer. And this is what they look like when they're ripe. They get a beautiful yellow rind, and the fruit inside is very, very pale, creamy yellow color. They are not necessarily a cantaloupe or a muskmelon. They have the webbing like both of those, but their fruit on the inside is not orange, and it's not white or green. It's yellowy, creamy, buttery color. Sorry, I had to get in the shade. It's getting a little bright over there. But an Anast Mar Amar melon is a very, very old melon. I tried to find some information about where it originated. There's a few different varieties. I found all sorts of information on the other varieties, the ones that I don't grow, but not so much on the ones that I do. All I know, it's a very, very old variety, originated in Europe, is not sold in stores. It doesn't have a long shelf life, so it wouldn't keep well for shipping. A past president, I want to say it was Jefferson, I'll have to double check on that, grew them and introduced them to the United States, but they never gained popularity just because they don't store well. And you know what? That is an incredible shame, because they are, at least in my opinion, one of the best melons I have ever had in my life. They are so incredibly sweet, so incredibly juicy and fragrant. They're very soft fleshed, kind of like a cantaloupe, but they don't have that like musky flavor that a cantaloupe and muskmelon have. They're a lot sweeter. And I know that musky flavor, like, I don't mind it. It's not my favorite, but these don't have it. They're just pure deliciousness. So that's number one on my fruit must grow list. And that is an annual. So that is restarted every single year. And it's so easy because you just take the seeds and save them. Use them for the next year. As long as you're not growing other melons of the similar genus that can cross-pollinate, or your neighbors aren't, you shouldn't have any issues with cross-pollination. And they should stay true because they are an heirloom. So outside from that one melon, as far as fruit goes, everything else is perennial. Everything else will come back year after year. Or is a tree. All my perennials I pick for very, very specific reasons. I factor in how expensive would it be to buy at the store? Can it be bought at the store? How big does it get? How much space is it going to take up? And a few other things. Obviously, taste is a factor as well. So my thinking is, if it's one of those ridiculously expensive fruits at the store that doesn't keep well, and by the time you get it, it's already kind of on its way out, I'm going to grow it if I can. Well, if it's something I like, of course. Or maybe you can get that at the store pretty easily and relatively cheap. But that one thing comes in many varieties, and maybe the store doesn't carry the variety you're looking for. That's kind of the case with that melon back there. I can go to the store and buy a melon, and they're not that expensive, but they aren't going to be that melon. No store is going to have that melon, so that's why I grow it. And it's well worth the effort. So moving on to my perennial fruits. Let's start with raspberries. Raspberries I grow for numerous reasons. One of the big ones is raspberries are a core memory for me. My dad grew raspberries my entire childhood. I have so many good memories of us going out there together and picking them, and of course, me eating them before they even got inside. So he would never get as many as he thought he would. Sorry, Dad. But they are a key moment of my childhood, and I knew when I had the space to grow them, I was going to grow them. Not to mention, a small container of raspberries at the store is expensive, and they don't last very long. It's like 2 days after you buy them, they're already getting moldy. I'm not going to pay $5, $6, $7 for a handful of raspberries at the store, which are less than fresh, when I can grow my own. But here's the challenge. I love raspberries, but they don't love the South. Now, most raspberry varieties don't do well in hot, humid climates. They don't like wet feet. They are prone to disease specifically associated with heat and humidity. But here I am, desperate to grow my favorite fruit in South Carolina, the South, where it's humid and hot and brutal. So it took me probably about a year of research to find a variety that would do best in my area. And I got that variety. When that variety started to fruit, it wasn't the variety I thought it was. So the ones behind me here, these were mislabeled when I got them. They were supposed to be a heritage red variety. They're gold, like this picture. So my best guess is that they're an Anne's Golden Everbearing variety. But the good news is, they seem to be doing great here. They do suffer a little bit towards the end of the season. The leaves get a little crunchy and gross, but I'm still getting very good harvests off of them, so I'm not upset. But my core memory with my dad didn't involve golden raspberries. It involved red raspberries. I jumped online again and did some more research for another 6 months and found another variety that, while it is a raspberry, it isn't a raspberry. And that's where we get this raspberry, the Dorman Red Raspberry. It is part of the thimbleberry genus. I can't pronounce this, so I'm sorry if I butcher it. Rubus parviflorius. Yeah, I probably didn't get that right, but they are native to Australia. The raspberry varieties that you see more commercially, I'm just gonna put the genus up here because I'm not gonna try to pronounce it. Those are of an actual raspberry genus, whereas this is a thimbleberry genus that looks and tastes just like your regular raspberries, but because they're native to Australia, they're perfect for the deep south. They love the heat and humidity. And well, I get to have my core memory. Dorman Red Raspberries. So moving on to number 3. I figure I should keep this maybe 5 top favorites. We have the dragon fruit. This is another one of those too expensive to buy fruits at almost, $8 per fruit. I don't want to spend that much. Now this is the American Beauty dragon fruit. It creates a red dragon fruit. It's not technically my zone compatible, but it's right next to the garage. So it is potted, and when the temperature drops below, basically when it gets below freezing, 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 Celsius, it gets dragged into the garage. And I mean, I'm getting fruit off of it, so clearly it can be grown in a pot, no problem. And this variety is self-pollinating, so you do not need another variety to cross-pollinate it. You just need a little bit of patience for this crazy monstrosity that grows really fast. Now, it's really cool about the dragon fruit and growing really fast. I started this from a cutting. I was given a cutting, maybe the length of my hand, 2.5 years ago. This is what grew out of that cutting. I am 5'6". This is standing up at about 6 feet, and the tallest limbs easily go up to 8-9 feet. All that growth in 2.5 years. And honestly, I've cut this back a lot. This used to be a lot bigger. It's fallen a few times and broken because it's a little bit top heavy. If nothing had happened to this, it'd be even bigger. All that growth in 2 years. And it took about 1.5 years before it started fruiting. When it flowers, it goes from this tiny little nub that doesn't really look much more than a thorn to a full-blown flower. This isn't quite there yet, but a full-blown flower in 21 days. That's it. And the flowers, this will probably grow about that much longer. After it blooms, which is only for one single night, if pollination is successful, you'll get fruit. And that fruit ripens in about 40 days, 40 to 45 days. That's insane. So yeah, not only is it my favorite because you get the fruit off of it, which is ridiculously expensive to buy in the store, but it's just a fascinating plant. And yes, it's very thorny, and I have the scratches to prove it. Well, number 4 and 5 are right behind me. Sorry about the humming. We have central air here. It's needed, and that's just the hum the exterior portion of the machine does. But anyway, this one right here, that little one, that is a pomegranate. Now, this is a dwarf pomegranate. I have a full-size one that is growing in my yard. I'll show you in a minute. That is not old enough to produce yet, but I am getting them off the dwarf pomegranate. They make, it's bigger than golf ball size. Here, this is what I picked. Pomegranates, I love them. I absolutely love them. We actually get them pretty well in the stores here. You can find them pretty easily, but they're expensive. Yeah, you can go to Walmart and buy them for cheaper, but they're just not great quality, and the chances of you just getting a rotten fruit are pretty high. So getting one from, a reputable supermarket or reputable supplier, you're looking at $4, $5, $6 per fruit. I eat them too much to pay that much every time I want a pomegranate, so I grew my own. And they do really, really well here. Well, not all varieties. Some varieties need a little bit warmer climate, but there are plenty that grow really well here. So this is my little dwarf pomegranate. Honestly, I'm not sure the variety. It was just kind of a mystery find one day that I've carried around potted for a while. These are very, very young fruit. They will probably get almost the size of my fist when they're ripe, but it does great. And it has died back a couple winters that we had a really, really harsh winter, but it always regrew. Like, it gets about this size in less than a year. And they're remarkably easy to take care of. They're very hands-off, so definitely a pick for me. And the fact that it's a dwarf, it will not outgrow this space. And this is my full-size wonderful pomegranate. Still pretty compact when they get full-size. Pardon that weed. But you can expect it to get maybe 10 to 12 feet, which my front yard is all sun all the time. And this is where I plant my fruit trees. So hopefully in the next year or so, this will start producing. And last but certainly not least, number 5, the passion fruit. This is a Nancy Garrison passion fruit. We have a native passion fruit here called Maypop. And while it's good, it's not as tropical. It's a little bit more sour. So I looked and I looked and I looked and found this one. It is the most cold hardy of all the passion fruit. Can survive down to 20 degrees, which is probably about as low as it usually gets here. Even that's a little bit rare, and creates purple passion fruit that are so incredibly sweet. They look kind of like frog eggs, but they are delicious. And another one of those It's way too overpriced at the store and not nearly as fresh. I am leaving mine potted just for now. This is my first year with it, actually, and still a little apprehensive about its cold hardiness because passion fruit is considered a tropical plant. We are subtropical, so not quite tropical, but right there on the edge. Despite them saying that it's cold hardy to a certain degree, I don't trust it. And she's growing fine in a pot for now, so I'm gonna get it big and strong and healthy, maybe root a few cuttings and test out its cold hardiness with the cuttings before putting it into the ground. But it's giving me good fruit. No fruit on it right now or flowers. It's got some buds forming. It's going for its second wave this year, so hopefully we'll get to see these beautiful flowers again. But that's number 5 on my list. All right, so I do grow a lot more fruit than that. I do have multiple fruit trees. This is just my top 5, my favorites. If I went through everything I grew, we'd be here a while. Loquats, wonderful little fruit. If you want to know more about them, let me know. Persimmons, Owari Satsuma mandarin, strawberries, blueberries, a couple different varieties, winterberries, cherries, a couple varieties of those. Of course, watermelons that I can't grow to save my life. I am playing around with mango trees. They are potted. They get big, so they might not be a forever resident in my garden, but we're experimenting. I know I'm missing things. Goji berries. You either love them or you hate them. I'm not particularly in that love phase, but they're so good for you. Anyway, I'm sure I'm forgetting some of the fruits that I grow. They're not on my favorite lists, but there are certain things I like about them. It's just, narrowing down to a top 5, it can be a little tough. But if you want to know anything about those fruits, let me know. I'll be happy to talk about them as well. They are all dwarf varieties for the most part, so they are space saving. Thank you for joining my fruit talk today. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you next time.